Early in the morning, the sun rose from the east, and the morning glow lit up the mountain peaks and their valleys. A large building complex with vintage construction looked like a holy land from another world, an illusion as it sat between the mountains. Around 20 children surrounded the dragon-shaped stone pillar in the square and continuously hit it. Their tender palms and fists made drum-like sounds as they hit the very solid pillar. There were both boys and girls in the group, and the older children were only 12 or 13 years old, while the younger ones were 7 or 8 years old. However, it was clear that they were just as strong as any adult experienced in martial arts. There was also a man around 30 years old in the square, observing the children as they worked, his hands behind his back. He watched and noted that there were good recruits in this group. Julian and Lucas Hades were only 12 years old, but they had already progressed to the 4th karate belt. The overall comprehension and skill was by far superior, but Yasmin and Juan Bridges were also not bad. They had reached the 2nd karate belt before they were 10 years old, but then again, all the children were doing very well. Just then, a 10-year-old boy suddenly appeared at the edge of the square and walked right to the center of the square. The child was wearing a set of white robes. His thin body coupled with his jade-like face made him appear especially elegant and graceful. He walked up to the man, stopped and asked in an extremely dissatisfied tone, "Coach, why didn't you inform me that you were practicing?" When he saw this child, the man frowned. "Henry, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to practice. If they can practice, so can I." "Oh, please, Henry. You know just as well as I do that you practicing karate isn't a good idea with your health. No matter how hard you work, there will be no results." I know, you've told me. My father has told me that I'm not strong enough. But I know that if I can just practice, that I'll be able to do well," the child shouted excitedly. The other children had stopped to listen to this conversation and started whispering among themselves. "Isn't that Henry Joseph? I thought he wasn't allowed here. I heard that he often comes to practice martial arts with his siblings, but he isn't built for it. Does he really think he's like his siblings? Teresa and Frank are so much better than he could ever be." "Henry Joseph, there is no place for you here. Go back to your reading and drawing." Listening to the surrounding children of the same age discussing and ridiculing him, the eyes of the boy called Henry Joseph shone with unshed tears. The corner of his mouth slightly curved into a stubborn smile. Henry Joseph was one of 3 triplets born to the Joseph family. The firstborn girl was named Teresa. She had been seen as an auspicious omen from the heavens, and that Hera had cried out as she was born. Her talents were endless, and everyone knew she was the future star of the family. The next brother was Frank, and when he was born, it was found that he had a special physique that would make him especially good at martial arts. The entire family had been shocked by this news. Even faraway relatives had come to see him. Having a good constitution was as good as having the most perfect weapon. It was clear from the start that these 2 children were destined for great things. Henry Joseph was the last one to be born among the 3 of them. Everyone expecting great things after his siblings. After some tests, it was found that his genetic structure was extraordinary, and that his body worked well, but that his bones were very dense, and his energy center was shut tight. Because of this, it was determined that he could not practice martial arts. It was a time when martial arts were popular, so becoming an ancient martial cultivator was everyone's dream. As Henry Joseph saw all the children around his age cultivating their inner strength and working to become ancient martial cultivators, he was jealous and couldn't bear to accept his fate. The man could see that Henry was not satisfied with his response, so the man looked up at the clock on the wall. "Practice is over. Next time, don't get distracted like this. You know how important your focus is, so don't let it happen. Go get some rest." Following the man's command, all the children dispersed, some of them feeling ashamed for listening in on the conversation. A few of the children said as they ran off, "Should we leave Henry there alone with the pillar? What if he breaks it?" "Hilarious. Imagine him breaking the pillar. Impossible." One of the other children laughed. The man looked at Henry Joseph, who was still standing there motionless. He opened his mouth but did not say anything. Finally, he sighed and turned around to leave without saying a word. In the blink of an eye, the bustling square became empty. Only Henry Joseph was left. He could feel his eyes getting wet and cold. He quickly wiped away the tears in his eyes and walked to the dragon carving stone pillar. He began the lesson he had set for himself. One by one, Henry made his way through the basic training moves he knew. 10 times, 20 times, 50 times. Hundreds of years before, humans had started to look at ways to enhance humanity and make them stronger. They'd been successful, and humanity had undergone a significant change. Some people began to research ancient martial arts, genetic mutations, armor making, special abilities, and other methods that could enhance human strength. Much of this research had occurred in China, which had had a long history full of many capable and powerful people. Some of the methods they developed during this time had led to a revival of the ancient martial arts throughout the world. Because of the genetic enhancements that had been discovered, humans' ability to perform martial arts had significantly improved. Profound knowledge about the mind, the body's energy, and strength had spread throughout the world after the research that had been done. However, it was not easy to become a martial cultivator. The most important thing to do was to find your inner zeal. Only by improving himself could he ever make it into the ranks to become a martial cultivator. His status would improve and he would be able to enjoy many privileges in society. The Ancient Martial Arts Council had established 10 levels. Levels 1 to 3 were the beginning of inner cultivation. Strength, speed, and other attributes would be greatly improved. Levels 4 to 6 showed deep inner cultivation and generally meant that the person had mastered several types of martial skills and that their destructive power was very impressive. Level 10 meant a connection to the conception and governing vessels. The inner force was endless and the martial arts skills were perfect down to a microscopic level. The average became the magical. Each and every move had great power. As for what came after level 10, Henry Joseph was not sure. Sweat soaked Henry's entire body as he counted his 100th punch. His thin body seemed so tiny and tender next to the large dragon pillar. After a slight pause, Henry breathed heavily. Then, without waiting for himself to fully recover, he immediately sat cross-legged on the ground. His eyes were closed. His left and right fingers were crossed, and his palms were facing the sky. He sensed his inner cultivation. Under extreme fatigue, one's potential would automatically be released. It was the easiest time to sense a person's inner cultivation. Before he knew it, 10 minutes had passed, but nothing had happened. Henry opened his eyes and stood up reluctantly. He had to keep going. Before his sweat had even dried, he started practicing his basic boxing moves once again. But when he opened his eyes, something strange happened. A weak but incredibly bright light briefly appeared in his pitch-black eyes, and then quickly went away. As the light in his eyes got bright, it seemed that even the sun dimmed slightly. Around 7 o'clock, a middle-aged couple with delicate features so perfect that they looked like a painting appeared in the square. When they saw the thin and weak boy in the square, who was sweating profusely while practicing basic martial arts moves, two of them looked at each other, their eyes filled with worry and heartache. "Henry, let's take a break and go back to eat with Mom and Dad." The two people standing there were Henry's father and mother, Philip and Maria. As they headed home, Henry held his parents' hands as he said, "Dad, Julie and Lucas are very powerful. When I grow up, I want to be as powerful as them." "You've taken me to so many places around the world because you said you wanted to build a good foundation for me to become an ancient martial cultivator. But I don't think it's worked. My brother and sister and all the other kids have started to find their inner zeal. But why haven't I? Why can't I do it? Is it because I'm too stupid?" Philip's heart skipped a beat when he saw his innocent boy's face. "No, dear boy. How could our Henry be stupid? Why you don't have the same zeal as the others is because your body is too strong. It makes it difficult for these things to show themselves in you. Because of that, it will be more difficult for you to become a martial cultivator than for others. But once you do become one, you will be much stronger than the others. So as long as you work hard, one day, I think you will become an ancient martial cultivator, and I think you'll even be stronger than me." Hearing his father's encouraging words, Henry's delicate face revealed a flash of brightness, but his optimism immediately dimmed down. Henry always had been incredibly intelligent and mature for his age. He had long since felt that he was different from the others because of how his family and friends always looked at him. Even Johnson and Johnson, who often played with him, had not seen him for many years. They had learned martial arts from their family all growing up. Henry's family had taken him to many strange places over the years. They had seen many important people that he knew were respected leaders. Sometimes he would wake up from a deep sleep and would see that he was hooked up to a number of tubes. He had tried to guess what this meant, but he was too afraid to ask about it. He was afraid it could give him more hope, or it might crush the little hope he had left. Also, Mom told me some good news. Our family's Rise Pavilion will open in a month's time. When that happens, you should be able to sense your inner zeal and become a martial cultivator. Also, the Scripture Pavilion will be open in the future. Alex and St. Herbert will be there as well.
Really?
Henry was pleasantly surprised. Henry jumped and ran away again, and he did not forget to throw out martial arts moves that he had been practicing for a long time. Maria worriedly asked Philip,
Because of Henry's situation, do you think the family will allow him to enter the Rise and Scripture Pavilions?
Philip coldly snorted. Henry has to be able to enter them this time. We can't exclude him from the family gatherings. Because of all our contributions, he should be able to go in. Philip was a prominent man in the military, and in the martial arts arenas he had great influence. He had been in many dangerous situations throughout his life, but he made it out every time. He was now a general in the army and had a great deal of power in the military. The Gilbert family, Maria's family, ran a very successful business. But then June Gilbert had entered the family. She was known as the Silver Fox, and once she was put in charge, things had changed for the family. They had developed a great deal of military technology and had turned them into a very prominent family. In the midst of this development, the Gilbert family developed a new synthesized metal, replacing what other metal alloys had been used in military technology for years. It had been especially useful for space travel, since the metal prevented attacks from doing much damage. The metal also helped the ships resist damage that could be caused during space jumps, which made the spaceships much safer and last much longer. After this, the Gilbert family had a very strong foothold in the military research and only continued to develop more technology. Maria frowned slightly when she heard Philip's words. Then, she remembered something.
My family's Rise Pavilion is in good condition too. If Henry doesn't end up finding his inner zeal, what should we do?
He has to walk his own path. It's not like he doesn't know there's something different about him. He's already 10 years old. How long can we hide it from him? He will find it out sooner or later. If he doesn't succeed this time, then our family will face it together. Our son won't be overcome by this kind of difficulty. On the east side of the enormous buildings and the vast ruins, an oval-shaped building that looked like a palace stood at the highest point of the mountain peak. There were already dozens of people sitting upright in the palace. From time to time, a stream of people would enter. It was the annual family meeting, held by the Joseph family. Henry was from an extremely old family. His impressive family tree is what had made him and his siblings so powerful. Before humans had begun space travel, the Joseph family had lived in this ancient castle, and they'd continued to live there ever since. By the time the oval-shaped door of the building had closed, nearly 100 people were sitting along a long, dark golden table. At the top of the table, a middle-aged man with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes was sitting with his head held high. This man was the leader of the Joseph family, almost like a king in terms of prestige. Ben Joseph looked ageless, but in reality, he had just turned 100 and had already entered the Sky Realm and had even stepped into the Supreme Realm. 100 years old was not very old in this time. Because of genetic enhancements, the life expectancy of humans was over 100 years. Those who practiced martial arts were even more powerful, making them live even longer. When a martial cultivator reached the yellow rank, their body became even more enhanced, and their lifespan could be over 150 years. When someone reached the profound rank, their mind could see through everything, and they would be able to sense their heaven and earth souls. Every time they withdrew a soul, their lifespan would increase by several decades. As for earth rank and heaven rank, these were more like legends than reality. A martial cultivator in the heaven rank was superior to any other being. To have a heaven rank person in a society was almost equivalent to having a nuclear weapon with all their abilities. How are the preparations for the opening of the Rise Pavilion going? The energy origin stone is ready. The array formations have also been withdrawn. I guarantee that the operation will be safe this time around. The children of the family cannot afford any accidents. Right. How is Henry? Old Harry, tell me about Henry's situation. Everyone who was there was a prominent member of the Joseph family. Every single one of them represented a powerful force in the outside world, such as the military, government, business, science, and other underground works. At the call of Old Harry, a valiant-looking old man who looked like Philip stood up and respectfully replied, "Well, sir, we still haven't found a way to cure the boy." This old man was Henry's grandfather, Harry Joseph. He was an elder of the Joseph family and was an Earth-ranked expert. Still nothing? What a pity. Ben Joseph sighed. Well, Teresa and Frank are both showing talent in martial arts. But Henry... Teresa had shown an amazing talent in music when she was just 6 years old. Later, she was sponsored by the Joseph family and was able to cultivate one of the most powerful martial arts of the Joseph family, and had obtained the 7 belts of karate. As for Frank, who had been given a unique physique, he had mysteriously disappeared. It was said that the Joseph family had specially opened a secret realm for him to cultivate in. This also showed how much expectation the Joseph family had for his Tingo Imperial body. It was also only Henry Joseph that didn't have amazing abilities. Although my son can cultivate the ancient martial arts, Philip still asked the chief to let Henry enter the Rise and Scripture pavilions to try his luck.